Okay, everybody, so we're going to talk today about adoption to Halacha. So we're going to start off with a famous Chachma Shlomo, it's Rabbi Shlomo Kluger, quite famous. He wrote, I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised, over 100 books. Very famous. And he writes in the Chachma Shlomo, which is usually found in the Shulchan Aruch, that God forbid someone who cannot have any kids. So he didn't Mekayim Pir Rivya, at least according to one pshat that we said last week. He wasn't Mekayim Pir Rivya. So he says, no big deal, just adopt. If you adopt a kid, it is tantamount, it is called that you were Mekayim Pir Rivya. Where did that come from? It comes from a Gemara Megillah. Because the Gemara Megillah says that it refers in Divrei Hayamim, has Basya, the daughter of Parai, giving birth, that she's called the birth mother of Moshe. And we know that that's not so. We know that Yocheved gave birth to Moshe, but in Divrei Hayamim, it refers to Basya Mamish. The lashon of the pasuk is Yolad. That's the lashon of the pasuk Yolda. So the Gemara says from there, from here we learn, Kol HaMegadol Yosem V'Yisayim B'Toich Beisai Mala Lavakosiv Ki'ilu Yoldoi. Anyone who rears, nurtures a Yosem V'Yisayim, it's as if she gave birth to them. So says the Chachma Shlomo, you see, it's called like it's mamash like gave birth. So therefore, you yaitza Pir Rivya, even if you're not the biological parents. Now, the Chachma Shlomo brings down a fascinating aside. He says, well, this is really dependent on how do you understand whenever the Gemara says ki'ilu. We have untold amount of Gemaras that say, if you do this, it's as if this happened. Right? I'll just quote some of them. I took it out from the... let's say it says over here, Kol HaMesameach Chasam V'Kala Ki'ilu Bona Echem Mechorvais Yerushalayim. Anyone who is Mesameach, anyone who makes happy a Chasam V'Kala, it says if he build up one of the desolate places of Yerushalayim. It says here another one, anyone talks lashon hara, ki'ilu kaifa be'ikr. It's like he denies the existence of God, right? Anyone who gives his daughter to an amaretz, it's as if he gave it over to a lion. Any dayan who is lower near dayan atzmoi, a dayan should always perceive himself. A dayan who is adjudicating should always envision himself ki'ilu, a sword is on his throat basically, and Gehenim is open in front of him. Anyway, I can go on here, and that's just the ki'ilu. If I say ki, I can go on forever. So the question is, whenever the Gemara says these type of Gemaras, doesn't mean they're not exactly alike. It's not exactly. It's a resemblance. Not exactly. Like what it says over here. Someone who rears Yosim Valmon, Yosim is Ki'ilu Yolda. That doesn't mean 100% is mamish exactly as if he is the birth mother. It just means Ki'ilu, sort of 50%, 60%, 70%. So the Chachma Shlomo brings down, this is a machlokes between the Taz and the Drisha. Why is machlokes Taz and Drisha? And a totally unrelated issue. We all know that the kibbud of the aim is on a lower level than kibbud of your Rebbe. You have to have more covered for your Rebbe. Because the Gemara says, the Rebbe brings you to Olam Haba, the of the aim only brought you to Olam Hazeh. That's an open Gemara. Okay? On the other hand, there are two identical descriptions about kibbud of aim and kibbud rabbi, right? I'm not going to get involved what rabbi means. It doesn't mean a guy gives you a shear for a year. Whatever rabbi means. But be it as it may, the Gemara says that anyone who is mechabed his father, ki'ilu is mechabed Rabbeinu Shalom. Wow. And the Gemara says, anyone who is mechabed his Rebbe, is ki'ilu is mechabed Rabbeinu Shalom. Now there's a problem here. On one hand we say, to respect your Rebbe is considered, has a primacy, is considered a higher level. So how could it say that someone who's mechabed his father, it's like he's mechabed the Shechina, and someone who's mechabed his Rebbe, it's like he's mechabed the Shechina? They're not the same. And l'chayr mechabed the Shechina is the highest thing possible. So there's something that doesn't line up. So the Drisha asks this question. The Drisha says, whenever it says ki'ilu, we don't know exactly what the percentage is. Ki'ilu could mean 50%, it could mean 60%, it could be 80%. So yes, it says, anyone who's mechabed his father's ki'ilu mechabed shechina. But you know what that ki'ilu means? 60%. It's 60% like mechabed shechina. And when it says anyone who's mechabed the Rebbe, it's like he's mechabed shechina, there it means 90%. So what do you see from this drisha? That whenever the Gemara says ki'ilu, it doesn't mean it's exactly like. And not only doesn't it mean it's not exactly, you don't really know how much it is alike. It could be 60%, it could be 80%. So, is doimele always less? Well, that's the question. Wait, that's the question. Yeah, obviously it'd be less. Obviously it'd be less. Pashtus, it would be less. Now, but the Taz emphatically argues on the drisha. He says, no, your question is a great question. And he says when it says ki'ilu, it means 100%. And how does he answer the Drisha's question? He answers it a different way. But what do you see? The Taz says whenever it says the word ki'ilu, it means 100%. And that's why when it says your mechabed your father is like ki'ilu mechabed Kadosh Baruch Hu, it means 100%. Exactly analogous. And when it says mechabed the Rebbe, mechabed Kadosh Baruch Hu, it's 100%. How does he answer the Drisha's question? I don't want to get involved. So it comes out like this. If you paskin like the drisha, you don't have a raya that if you're megadol yasam v'yasayma bebeisai, it's like you did preview. Because all the Gemara says, mala of kasav ki'ilu yaldei. But according to the drisha, what does ki'ilu mean? 50%, 70%, whatever it means. We don't know. But it says the chachma shleima, if you learn like the Taz, it comes out 100% is considered that you're megal yasam yisayim, you nurture a yasam. It's like 100% you gave birth to him, and you're mekayim peer review. That's what the chachma shleima comes out. No, okay. So that's just an opening. The bottom line is, what does Halacha say about adopting? What does Halacha say about adopting? Now, we could talk about adopting a Jewish child, and we could talk about adopting a Gentile. Those are the two possibilities, right? All right, no other possibilities. Jewish or Gentile. That's the only possibilities that I know. Right? So, the second part of the shir is going to be talking about adopting a Gentile, which we probably won't get to today. We'll probably get to next month, because next year will hopefully be about Tisha B'Av. But it may be funny to hear, but actually it's easier if you adopt a Gentile. It's easier if you adopt a goy. It makes things easier. You'll have the question, what do you mean adopt a goy? You got these Haredi, Hasidic couple that didn't have any kids for whatever reasons. They're going to adopt a goy? Well, what are they going to be? A goy? So, like I said, there are ways to make him a ger. We'll have to talk about that maybe at the end of this year, maybe next week. But the issue is, let's say you actually get lucky and you adopt a Jew. Now, okay, great. So you adopt a Jew, everything is wonderful. Yeah. But the problem is, everything is not wonderful. Why is everything not wonderful? Because you have a major issue. And the issue is, so you have a Jew, but you have absolutely zero information about his pedigree. Right? Meaning, we can't get involved in every single permutation, every single case. Every single adoption agency has different laws, what they allow you to know about the child, what they don't allow you to know about the child. So we're going to talk about it here, maybe depending on time, depending on the country, depending on the state. So it may be a little bit theoretical. But we're going to be talking about a case where the only information that you could find out, is that they're Jewish. You cannot find out anything else. But Moshe says openly, if you can find out, you got to find out. If the agency allows you to find out, then yeah, of course you have to find out. But in most cases, the agency will not let you know anything. So if that is the situation, so all you do is you have this cute, wonderful bundle of love, this little baby who's looking for parents, but you don't know anything about the pedigree. You know nothing. Oh, so what's the problem? Well, I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is, those of us, we've learned Kedushin together, most of us, and we know there's something called Asufi. We know. It's a little bit of a background. What is the background we need to know here? We need to know that there's something called a mamzer. We know that. Something called a mamzer. And we know that the Gemara says, we spoke about this a couple times, that a mamzer is only usher if you know 100% he's a mamzer. If it's a suffix mamzer, min ha-Torah, it's mutter. No problem. But the Gemara says there are two cases that the Chachamim said, Maila asa b'yuchsim. That since we are very wary about pedigree, there are two cases where, if you don't have information, we make them as if they're a mamzer. They're called suffix mamzer. What are those two cases? We have the case of shtuki and asufi. Who is a shtuki? Well, mom's walking around with the baby, and they say, and the kid basically says, call someone dad, and mom says, no, that ain't your dad, right? Or basically, mom does not reveal who the father is. The Gemara says she's a shaita, she can't talk, she ran away. You cannot figure out who the father is. Now, here it is very, very important. We're talking about a mom who is a single mom. The whole issue of shtuki doesn't apply to a married woman. The whole issue of shtuki is a single mom. So, there's a little bit of warning lights over here. Single mom doesn't want to say who the father is. We don't know who the father is. We're afraid the father may be a mamzer. You don't know. It's a midaraisa. Since you don't know, it's not a problem. But Rabbi said, Ma'ala asa b'yuchsin, and he is called shtuki. What does shtuki mean? Shtok, quiet. What's an asufi? An asufi is you a baby that you just find thrown on the street. Asuf, what does the word asuf mean? You gathered, right? When you gather the kid, you come out, you hear a doorbell ring, you open up the door, and there is, please take care of me, a baby, and you have no idea about anything. You don't know nothing. That's called asufi, right? So what's the Gemara say in Kedushin, and Halacha? These two children, sadly enough, are messed up. Because midarbanan, they're called a mamzer. But since it's only midarbanan a mamzer, they can't even marry mamzeres. Meaning, it's actually more advantageous if you're a mamzer. Because then at least you can marry mamzeres. Sufi v'shtuki, really, they're mutter min ha-Torah. Midarbanan, they made it usher. So it works out that they can't marry anyone. They can't marry a Yisrael, and they can't marry mamzeres. Who could they marry? A ger. A ger. They could marry a ger. And the Gemara famously says they can't even marry each other. Let's say they have two shtukis or two asufis. They can't even marry each other because no one knows what their status is. So basically, the only one a shtuki and a sufi can marry is a ger.
Is there a way to ever find out or not?
We're talking about a case, maybe we'll get to that at the end of this year, that there's no way to find out. The agency won't let you know. We'll talk about it at the end of this year if sometimes the agency lets the kid when there's 18 years old to try to find who the parents are. But like I said, it's going to be very abstract. It's going to be very theoretical. Every case is a little bit different. We're talking about a case where there is no way you could find out who the mother and father is, but you know it's Jewish. That much you know. It's also a hard case. How do you know it's Jewish? You don't know the parent, right? Somehow or other the agency will allow you to know that they're Jewish. And here's another question. Why do you believe the agency? Who says you believe them? I can't go through all the permutations and all the different difficulties. I just want to zone in. We know it's Jewish, and you don't know anything else. So l'chayra, you're very kind, you're taking in this child, but what are you going to tell the child when he's 20 years old? Oh, by the way, you can't marry anyone? It doesn't work, right? It's not going to work. So we got to find the heter. We got to find the heter. We got to get this kid married. Excellent. Very good. That's exactly what the Gemara says, what Yaakov says. And a Sufi, all his children, for 10, 20, 30 generations down forever, all his progeny are also a Sufi. Now usually, by the time you get that far, everyone forgot about it. But in principle, Yaakov is right. In principle, Yaakov is right. Just like a mamzer. 20 generations down the line is a mamzer. Okay, so now, before we try to figure out an answer to this problem, to get this kid to be able to get married, we have to know another famous machlokes, which came up recently in the Jewish world. A guy walks in out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. He's wearing a streimel, a bekishe, and he sits down in shul. No one knows who this guy is. No one. What's your family name? Oh, I'm from Tunisia. I'm from the middle of nowhere. My family name is blah, blah, blah. And no one knows him. And it's not like in our days where you could do the research. No one knows him. In the good old days, that was it. So could you marry him or not? Is he allowed to get married? Right? We could divide up the question. Could he marry into Kahuna? Could he marry Yisrael? But in principle, can he get married? So, this is a major machlokes between the Rishonim. The Ramah and Rashi say openly, even though we know it says in the Gemara Kedushin, Kol HaMishpachas B'cheskes Kasher Same, all mishpachas are considered kosher, and there's no reason to think differently. But says the Ramah and Rashi, that's only if you know the name of the mishpacha. I mean, you know who that mishpacha is. Mishpacha Solomon, been living in Brooklyn, New York for a long time. Did something happen to Mishpacha Solomon? Is the mamzer sneaking over there? No, you don't got to worry about it. You don't start doing research for no reason. But in a case where you don't know the guy at all, you have no idea who he is. He gives you some random name, but you don't know that Mishpacha at all. He's from out of town. Again, in the good old days where you had no communication. So says the Rashi and Ramah, you're not allowed to marry. Midarabanan, you're not allowed to marry that guy, because since you have no idea who his heritage is. Tosfos, on the other hand, vehemently argues, and so the Torah says no, not true. If a guy just walks into the shul, you have no idea who it is. You'll never have an idea who he is. You believe that he's Jewish, and you believe that he's kosher. You don't got to worry about it. You have nothing to worry about. Fine, famous machlokes. Tosfos brings a riot to his shita because there's a famous Gemara in Yevamos that talks about a child whose mother was Jewish and whose father was a goy, and no one wanted to marry him. No one wanted to marry him. And the Gemara paskin that he's totally kosher. He's totally kosher, but he couldn't find a shidduch. So the rabbis told him, go out of town. No one will know who you are, and they'll marry you. What did I say? What do you see in that Gemara? That if you go out of town, no one knows who you are. No problem. She would be able to get married. I understand. According to Rashi, they have to do research. They'll find out again. Once again, they'll find out his pedigree, that his father was a goy. So that Tosfos' raya. Rashi would argue their ways out of the raya. But basically, major machlokes. So it comes out like this. It comes out like this. So basically, the way we're going to set it up is, we have two issues here. Our adopted kid, that you have no idea who the parents are. Again, the agency will tell you it's Jewish, that much you know. But they will not tell you anything else. So you have both these issues. One is it's on a Sufi. One is it's a classic case of a Sufi. And two is, it's like this Hasidic guy who walks into the Beit Medrash, walks into town, and you have no idea who he is. And according to the Rashi and Ramah, you can't marry this guy because you have no idea who he is. So the same thing, this kid, you have no idea who he is. But how are we going to get out of this problem? So the answer is, because I'm only telling you half the story. Because the Gemara says there are cases where you could marry an Asufi. There are cases. You have no idea who the parents are, and the kid's just thrown on the street. You could marry him. What does the Gemara say? The Gemara says it depends on how you find the kid. If you find the kid, the Gemara says, if you find the kid, Mohul, Nimtzavlad, Mohul, if you find the kid that he had a bris milah, or you find that he is humlach means that he's basically taken good care of, you find him, you get a knock on the door, you see a beautiful baby carriage, or the kid well taken care of, well diapered, you could tell that he was medically attended to in some way, or you find the kid not in the middle of the street, you find him somewhere on the side where people will find him, but not in a dangerous place. The Gemara talks about you find him in a tree, but you find him in a tree where people will find him and the birds won't be able to get him. Basically, it comes out like this. The Gemara says, the only time you have this din of a Sufi is if, God forbid, you find the kid in the garbage dump. Right? If you follow the news every couple of years, you hear the garbage man found the baby in the garbage dump. Then it's called an Asufi. But if you find the kid in a situation that you could tell that he wasn't abandoned to die, he was abandoned in a way that clearly the parents who abandoned him was hoping that the kid would be found, then he's not an Asufi. So again, if he's well tended to, you find him in a safe place. Certainly, if you get a knock on the door, certainly a letter that says, please take care of me, certainly these are not a Sufi.
Yeah, but it's not an adoption center.
Wait a minute. Now, we'll get to adoption in a minute. So what do we have over here? Rabbi Shlomo Kluger says, what do we see from this Gemara? L'chayra, if you find the kid in a good situation, he's not a Sufi. Why? Why is that so? Why did he find the kid in a good situation, not a Sufi? Very simple. The whole reason why we think a Sufi is a mamzer, or we're chayshish he's a mamzer abanan, is because we see the parents wanted to get rid of him. The parents want to get rid of him. Why did the parents want to get rid of him? Probably there was some illicit relationship, and they basically want him to die, more or less. They want to have anything to do with him. They're embarrassed. But if you find the kid in a good situation, so why did the parents abandon him? They had no money. It was a financial situation.
So how can he be taken care of?
It was a financial situation. So they didn't have enough money to send the kid. They knew the kid's going to want to grow up, go to Koilo. You got to support him for many years. They couldn't support the kid for Koilo. They couldn't support him. So it was financial reasons that they abandoned him. So based on the situation, we could ascertain what was the reason they abandoned him. If the kid's in the garbage dump, the parents want him to die, basically. They don't care about the kid at all. That basically puts up the warning lights that there's a good chance it's a mamzer. Again, only the rabbanim. But if we find the kid in a good situation, probably the parents had financial difficulties or whatever it was, but they would like the kid to be taken care of. Okay. So now, if this is true, which is an open Gemara, how could the Chachma Shlomo asks, how is it possible that the Ramah says a distinguished Hasidic Jew comes into the community, refined man, and we don't know who he is. We have no idea who he is. What does the Ramah say? Oh, you can't marry him. You can't marry him because you have no idea who he is. You have no idea who his family is. I don't understand. This Hasidic Jew who came in, who is well kept, he looks very regal. So I don't understand. We said even if you find a kid on the street that's well taken care of, he's considered not a Sufi. And even though you have no idea what his pedigree is, it's okay.
But then the parents left.
So why in the world, if the Hasidic guy who comes into the shul, the community, he looks wonderful, he looks great, well taken care of. So how could it be that the Raman Rashi say that you can't marry this guy? Oh. But Shammai already got the answer. Shammai got the answer. What's the answer? That yes, this Hasidic guy comes into shul and his community and he looks great. But you don't know where he came from. Maybe this kid was actually, the kid came from the trash can. You don't know. You don't know what this kid's history. So even though tall, handsome, regal, guy, but you have no idea what his history from. Maybe he's the kid that was found in the trash can. Masha'en kain, a Sufi that you find in a good condition, you find him on your doorstep. So there we say, okay, the reason why the kid was abandoned because of financial reasons. Meaning, alam de shachakir. This is what we're doing here now. Alam de shachakir. How do we understand why a Sufi is asur mirabbanan? There's going to be three possibilities, meaning three cases. Is the pshat like this? And a Sufi is asur mirabbanan because you don't know his pedigree. You don't know who his father and mother is. That's it. Enough. That's enough. By the dint that you don't know the father and mother, he's asur. If you have a proof positive, if you have a dispositive proof that the parents loved him, i.e., they put him in a very good situation before when they abandoned him. They put him in a safe place, in a tree in a safe place. So there you have a proof that he's not a mamzer. Meaning, if it's neutral, you have no proof one way or another, then you say, yes, older about it. Exactly, we'll get to that in a minute. If he's in a neutral situation, i.e., the Hasidic guy coming into the community is a neutral situation. We'll explain that in a minute. If it's a neutral situation, a Sufi. If you have a positive reason to say that he's not a mamzer because you see the parents took good care of him, then he's not a mamzer. Or is it the other way? Is it the other way? No. Neutral situation, it's not a Sufi. Neutral situation, if you don't know the pedigree, you don't say the Sufi. When you say a Sufi, when you have a positive reason to say that the parents don't like the kid. What would be a positive reason to say the parents don't like the kid? When you find him in the garbage, when you find him just thrown right in the middle of the highway. Right? So you have positive reason to say that he is a mamzer, where parents throw him in the middle of the street, mom's in the middle of the street, in the Makam Sakana. You have neutral, and then you have a positive reason to say he's not a mamzer. So this is the machlokes, the Ramah, Rashi, and Tosfos. Tosfos holds that if it's just neutral, meaning you have no raya one way or another, that's not called a Sufi. So our person who comes into the community, we have no idea who he is. We have no idea who he is. It says he comes from hundreds of miles away. We have no idea who he is. It's neutral. We don't have a raya one way. We don't have a raya the other way. We don't know if he was taking good care when he was a kid. We don't know if he was not taking good care when he was a kid. Tosfos hold that that's enough, that he's not called a Sufi. Rashi and Ramah hold the other way, that if it's a neutral case, it is called a Sufi. Like the Hasidic guy who comes to the community, neutral, it's called a Sufi. Just that what? If you have a positive reason to know that he's not a mamzer, i.e. we know when he was abandoned, we know he was taken good care of, then we say you have something that takes it out of the neutrality. So this is the machlokes between Rashi and Tosfos. Now, as an aside, someone's going to ask, I don't understand something. We said a shtuki. What's a shtuki? A shtuki is a kid, well groomed. The mother's taking very good care of him. Very good care of him. Right? Well dressed. But since the mother won't reveal who the father is, asur, maybe it's a mamzer, I don't understand. Then we have proof positive. The mother's taking good care of the kid. So why is shtuki asur? Oh, but the answer is simple. It's a mistake. What's the mistake? Why is it a mistake? Because shtuki is talking about a single mother. By dint that she's a single mother, that's it. All red lights start, all the warning lights start flaring. A single mother having a baby, this ain't good. So when it's a single mother, nothing helps unless she says who the father is. If she says.
She says she's single. She's never been married.
We know she's single.
Married before?
No, a single. So therefore, since we have by dint that she's single, it doesn't help that you take care of the kid. But in a Sufi, we don't know anything. It could become from a married couple. Not could be. Probably came from a married couple, maybe. So by a Sufi, if you have a raya that the kid is well taken care of, then we say, kid's well taken care of. We don't know anything about him. Probably the parents are probably married, probably wonderful mishpacha, and they financial difficulties. By shtuki, we have an outside reason to think that there's a problem because of the single mother. Okay? So bottom line, what do we do with our kid? What do we do with our kid? You know that he is a Jewish, but you don't know anything else. So it comes out like this. In 99.999% of the cases, you have no problem. Why no problem? Because all you have to do is find out, was the kid born in a hospital? That's all you got to find out. If you can find out the kid was born in a hospital, that shows that the mother wanted the kid to be taken care of. If you can find out that the mother gave the kid to the agency, that's definitely good. Because then clearly the mother cares about the kid. The only case is going to be where you can't find out anything. Meaning, if you can find out, if the agency is going to reveal, you know what, we found this kid at the garbage dump. Again, how you know it was Jewish, I don't know. But you found that it was Jewish, and we did a little research, it was Jewish, but the kid was totally abandoned. We found it in the garbage dump. Then you're in trouble. Then there's nothing to do about it, right? Then you're in trouble. But that's like never happens. I mean, to find that out. What about a case where the agency will not reveal anything? They'll reveal, yes, Jewish, that you could find out, Jewish, but they won't reveal anything about it, where you found the kid. Was it born in the hospital? Was it given over to the agency? This would be exactly our machlokes between the Rashi and Tosfos. What we have here is we found an analogous case of a guy who just walks into the community and you don't know anything about him. That's exactly what you have over here. You have a kid, you know he's Jewish, but you don't know anything about him. You don't know his pedigree, and you don't know how he's abandoned. You have no idea how he's abandoned. So according to Rashi, the kid can't marry anyone because it's a neutral case. You don't know the pedigree. It's true you don't know if he was abandoned, but you don't know if he was thrown in the garbage dump, but you don't know if he was put in a nice place either when he was given up. But according to Tosfos, we're in a case when it's a neutral case, we say that the kid's kosher, so this will not be a problem either. And like Shammai said, in all these cases we're going to paskin lekula. Shammai said, that's what we paskin like Tosfos and the other Rishonim, that a guy who just walks in the community, you don't know who he is, you don't know anything about him, you can marry him. Again, in our days where you could do research, it's so easy to do research, obviously you'd be foolish not to do some research. But in the good old days, and this type of case is the good old days, you have a kid that you have no idea about anything about him. All you know is that he's Jewish, but you have no idea how he was abandoned. So, halacha l'maisa, the only time a Jewish kid, if you know he's Jewish, the adoption will be a problem, is only if you found out that the kid was totally found in the garbage dump. Then you shouldn't adopt this kid. I mean, you could adopt him, but the kid won't be able to marry anyone else. Okay. Now, you may ask, great, Rabbi, fine, you did a wonderful job. Again, I want to repeat. We're talking about a very sterile. We're talking about a very finite case where you know it's Jewish and you don't know anything else, right? It's not really a very realistic case for whatever reasons. How do you know it's Jewish? But from here, you could go to other cases. This is where you have to start. I'm not going to be able to get to the other cases like you don't know it's Jewish. It's a roiva. You find them in New York City. You don't know if it's Jewish. Maybe it's a guy. Maybe it's not a guy. But I'm talking about this simple case now. You know it's Jewish, but you don't know anything else. Now, what? That's another. We spoke about that. Can you believe the agency? The accepted reality is that we do believe agency because it's government regulated. So you usually do believe the agency to extent. But then you can have a question. Maybe the agency don't know what Jewish means either. Right. You're right. Again, like I said, it gets very, very complicated. It gets very complicated. So this is just one scenario, an abstract. Then you have to deal with all the other issues. Now, one would say, wait 1 minute. We have l'chayr an open Gemara in Nazir that says not like what we said. Why is that? Famous Gemara Nazir. You have a Yeshivat Ohr listening and learning Torah. And getting older, and it's time to get married. So the Yeshivat Ohr says, I got no time for this. He appoints a shliach and says, Shliach, get me anyone you want. I don't care. I trust you. I trust your judgment. Good. And sadly enough, what happens is the shliach never makes it back. Disappears. So the Gemara says that Yeshivat Ohr can never marry anyone. And for the rest of his life, he's not allowed to marry anyone. Right? Why? Why is he not allowed to? Why not allowed to marry anyone? Why not? The Gemara says because you don't know if the shliach actually accomplished his job. So it could be the shliach, you are actually married to someone, but you don't know. So this person that you're marrying now, maybe the sister, maybe the mother, maybe an aunt, maybe mother-in-law, maybe you have no idea. Basically, since you don't know if you are married, you don't know.
You told him to marry you off? Or you
the Bachar said, the Shir Bach said to the Shliach, anyone you want.
So he's coming in with ready.
So basically, you are stuck forever, the Gemara says another. Why? Because basically, you don't know if the woman you're marrying now may be the sister or some other relative of the woman that you were married to that you don't know about. That is the Gemara in Nazir. Oh. What?
Only child, ask the mother.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. I didn't say any answer to this question, but Moshe is right. There's no reason why he came out of Geiris that became a Geiris after the story. Yep.
There's no ever there.
You're right. Geiris, I don't see why not.
There's no ever there.
Oh, he's good too. Maybe the Erev D'Rabbanan. You're right. You're both right. Maybe the Erev D'Rabbanan. Okay, but we got the point. So the question is like this. Our adopted child. Okay, forget about the pedigree. You're not worried about it's a mamzer. So you have the adopted child, kosher. But you make a shidduch with maybe he's marrying his sister. If we're talking about a case where we know that the child is Jewish, maybe he's marrying one of his relatives.
Maybe you're married, maybe this is the sister.
Very good. So two says, Tosfos in another says. The truth is, midaraisa, it's not true. If you send the Yeshivat Ohr, midaraisa could marry anyone. Maybe the shliach was successful, and now you're marrying your wife's sister. The Tosfos says, no, that's ridiculous. We go after Roiv, and you don't got to worry about it. He talked about sex seika. You got Roiv, midaraisa. You don't got to worry that maybe the one in a zillion chance the woman you want to marry now is the sister of your wife. But the Gemara, I'm not going to get involved. The Gemara, they talk about kavua, calls them, me learning a little bit about it in the morning, I don't want to get involved. Tosfos says over there, Roiv works. So the Gemara says over there, but in that case, they gave a special knas. They were very upset at this Yeshivat Ohr who was too lazy to go out and find the wife. And even if you don't want to go out, at least tell the shliach, give him some, tell him who you want him to marry for you, right? But since he set up the situation that the Gemara feels is not a favorable situation, so since he did that, it's a knas. No, if it's only a knas by our adopted child, but I can give a knas, and I can say, adopted child, we ascertained you're not a mamzer. Oh, but you can't marry anyone because maybe he's your sister. Well, we give the adopted child a knas. Right? By the way, if you remember in the Haggadah, it's also a pasuk in the Chumash. It says Arami Oived Avi. Who's Arami? Anyone knows Arami? Lavan, Bilam, right? Lavan, right? Arami Oived Avi. So everyone's trying to figure out where was Arami Oived Avi? Where did Lavan try to kill Yaakov? So simple answer is, because we know Lavan chased, after Yaakov ran away, Lavan chased him. And seemingly Lavan wasn't chasing him just to, because he wanted to give him a big farewell party like he claimed. Right? Lavan was that's the simple understanding why Lavan chased him. But the Academics say no. You know where Lavan tried to kill Yaakov? Because if you remember, Lavan didn't try to kill Yaakov. He tried to make the Yaakov shouldn't give birth, shouldn't be born. What does that mean? Because we know that what did Avram tell Eliezer? Go get me a wife. Get me a wife. And what did Eliezer say? Okay, let's say I can't get from here. So then Avram said, okay, if you do the shul, you get from somewhere else. Avram's case is a case where you send the shliach and you don't give you don't say exactly who the shliach should marry off to. So basically, what do we know from the story? Lavan tried to kill Eliezer, right? We all know. Suel, all of a sudden, in the middle of the story, disappears. We all learned in kindergarten. Yeah, Eliezer tried to poison Suel. Eliezer, Lavan wanted to steal his money, and at the end of the day, the soups got mixed, and Suel died. So let's say Lavan would have been successful in his devious plot, and Eliezer would die. It would come out, Yitzchak could never get married. Because that's our case of...
That's before Torah.
Okay. Good question. That's our case of someone who says a shliach and you don't earmark who the girl should be. So if Yitzchak can't get married, Yaakov won't be born. Obviously, right? So that's another interpretation of a Rami Ovid Avi. It would have been a knas. I understand Shabbos is asking, there was a knas in the time of Avraham Avinu. It's a good question. But just for the vart, there would have been a knas in Avraham Avinu that basically Yitzchak would not be able to get married because Avraham Avinu was sort of over on this Gemara. Now, Rabbi, so what time is it?
49.
Like I said, we're not going to get to the second part of the shir, which is even more exciting about how do you adopt a Gentile child. But a big problem of adopting a Jewish child is a big problem, the problem of Yich and Negia. So what are you going to do? You're going to adopt the kid. Fine, the kid's 3, whatever, is 9, no problem. But what happens when the kid gets older? What is the father going to do with his adopted daughter? He can't be in the house with her? What is the son going to do with his adopted mother? He won't be able to kiss him on the bar mitzvah day? It's untenable, right? The Tzitz Eliezer says a big chiddush. But what's the problem? The problem is yichud. The problem is negia. You can't seclude yourself with a strange man, right? And after everything's said and done, this child is a strange person. It's not a relative. So the mother won't be able to ever stay in the house with the child, or the father with his daughter. It's also not viable. So Tzitz Eliezer comes out with a big chiddush. He says the whole problem of yichud and negia is that it may cause arousal. Right? That's what we're worried about. We're worried about there will be some impropriety that will be done. He says a chiddush. Just like by a biological mother, we're not suspect, because it's innate that nothing will go wrong because you have this certain type of relationship. He says a sociological mother, a mother that reared you, that treated you like a mother, has the same din. That you're not worried that there's going to be any misbehavior, and you could do yichud with an adopted kid. It's a big chiddush that he decided that it's not based on genetics, it's based on the relationship of a mother-son relationship based on how they relate to each other. So that's what most poskim paskin. No problem, yichud, no problem, negia. But here, which I didn't get involved in the shir, you have to know what the age is. And really the whole shir depends on what age. Everything I talked about was when you adopt the kid, the baby. But if you adopt a 9-year-old boy, all of a sudden, hi, mom, you're my mom, all of a sudden. It's a little quasi. You didn't really raise a kid for your whole life. So what's the cutoff date? 6, 5, 4? Not so clear what the cutoff date would be. A kid under 3 would probably be considered okay. Because, the kid, and you relate to him as your mother. But a kid that's a little older, it's a real big problem to adopt a kid that's a little bit older, because then you have the yichud and negia problem. L'chayra, you won't have the other problem, the asufi problem you won't have, because since the kid is 3 and 4, he was taken care of for a while. So you don't got to worry about that. He's clearly a kid that was taken care of. So Rabbi Isai, like I said, we're not going to talk about the other part. Hopefully we'll get to that next month about adopting a Gentile kid. Okay, Rabbi Isai, thank you very much.
Hey, Rabbi, what about the reason of the Gerim and their yichud with the parents?
What?
With Gerim, the yichud with the parents is like it's only Isser D'Rabbanan. Ger can marry his mother or his father, whatever. And the Rabbanan, they said that they also did because people just not convert to marry their parents. So why don't we say the same reason?
No, because that's for sure. Even though we say ger katan k'noila dummy, but not for biologically, clearly.
So biological is different.
Right.
Not biological.
Exactly. Okay, Rabbi Isai, you want to?